Welcome to the first in a series of videos where I'm going to explain to you how you can learn to 3D model from scratch. Before getting into the bulk of this video, however, I'm going to cover the why. Why would anyone ever want to learn how to 3D model? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and it consists of two parts. First, if you ever want to make a product in your future, you'll definitely want to know how to 3D print and 3D model. And the reason is simple. 3D printing and 3D modeling is a much less costly alternative to the other methods of simulating what a product will look like in the real world. For example, many of you know products can be made of molds. That's how most production products are made. But in the development stages of those products, molds are way too expensive for low production quantities. And that's why 3D printing is a much better alternative. Second, which I actually very enjoy, is making your own fun projects. So, for example, if you ever want to make something for your desk, something to hold your pencils, 3D printing is a great way to make something that you actually built yourself and you take pride in doing so. For example, a couple years back, I decided to make a minion 3D printing. And now it was pretty simple. I just had kind of a blob with two eyes, but I still was so proud of that minion model. I still keep it on my desk today, even though it serves absolutely no purpose. So, 3D modeling is a great way for one, simulating what products will look like at a low cost, and two, carrying out your own fun projects and imaginings. So for the software, I highly recommend using Autodesk Fusion 360. Now, it's one of the few I've used, but so far Autodesk has been the most smooth, and it has also allowed me to combine my circuits with my 3D printed models so that I can have all my data in one place. Autodesk Fusion 360 is also free for students. So if you're a student, I highly recommend using it because it's probably the best option you have out there. So how do you get to this page? Well, first, you got to Google Fusion 360 for students. And now if you want to install this as a student for free, you got to click this first link as I've done here, and then it'll bring you to a page where you can say Get Fusion 360 for free. After you click that, the process is fairly straightforward, and you can simply install it on your computer. Once you've done that, check back into the video where I'm going to explain to you the basics of using it so you can play around on your own. As you can see here, I'm in the Fusion 360 app. Now you can also see that I'm in the education license mode, which means I'm using the education license for free, and so I can use Fusion 360 for free. Now for a brief overview, when using Fusion 360, the first thing you're going to want to do is obviously create a new design. So I already have a design open, so it's kind of pointless right now, but that's how you do it. Fusion 360 is very cool for a number of reasons. So before we actually get into doing a brief, small, quick design, I'm going to just give you a quick overview of what Fusion 360 is capable of, which is a lot of things. So Fusion 360 can allow you to create different shapes and components. It can also allow you to carve features in these components, make holes in the components, make threads for example, if you have a screw to fit inside, pipes, all sorts of shapes you can imagine. And it also allows you to modify these shapes. Press pull is a very useful feature. We'll go over that today. Fillet is for rounding off edges. You get the idea. There's a lot of features and a lot of great things to do. You can also assemble different components that you make in Fusion 360. You can construct planes in which to make new components, and you can also inspect the components using measuring tools and other interfaces. So Fusion 360 can be a little confusing at first, a little daunting. And the reason is because, obviously, if we go and reveal the origin, you have three planes here. Now, on a normal platform like drawing, for example, or any other thing, you're always using one plane. But on Fusion 360 and in 3D modeling, you're working with three-dimensional objects, so you're going to be using three planes. Now, this is pretty hard to wrap your mind around first, but just picture that one plane is the ground, one is a wall, and another is another wall. And you're going to need to use these three planes to construct your objects. So today we're going to go ahead and make a cylinder, and I'm going to explain to you how you can do it, how you can modify the cylinder, and then on your own time you can actually play around with the features up here in the top corners and see what you can create. I would also love to see your designs. If you create any new ones, just send them to me through the Contact Us page or post them on Instagram with the hashtag Puriphico, and I'll see them and I'll repost them. So thank you for doing that. So first, when you're creating an object, what you want to do is you say Control click on the top part here, which says unsaved, obviously, because I haven't saved it. But you go New Component. So if we're creating a cylinder, what we want to do is say Cylinder. So we want to title that component a cylinder. We say OK, and you'll see here a cylinder will come up. Now you'll also see that there's this dot mark right here. Well, what does this mean? It means that the active component is the cylinder. This means that if you have multiple components, that the other ones besides the active one will be kind of muted, so you won't be able to see them and allow you to better focus on this component. Okay, so in a cylinder, we can probably have two components, a cylinder and a lid if we're having a hole in the cylinder for like a case of some sort. But right now, I'm just going to give you the very basics. So when creating a cylinder, what you want to do, you want to be activated here, and you want to say, create new sketch. So then the sketch will ask you which plane you want to draw on, right? I want to draw on the ground. So I'm going to select the ground, and I'm going to go create. See here, you can create a bunch of stuff. It's very useful. I'm going to say create, let's say circle. Cylinder is a circle. What you can do here, you select a point, and you can also select the diameter. So I'm going to say 80 millimeters. And we're going to go OK. And I'm going to positive this and finish sketch. So now you can see we have a circle on the ground. Now, you may remember from the modify feature, I mentioned something called the press pull feature. Press pull is very useful in this instance because what I can do, I can say press pull, select the face of the cylinder and say, let's raise it to 50 millimeters. There we go. 50 millimeters, it's a new body, so this is our cylinder. But we can also play around with it, so we don't have to just make a cylinder. Say you want a cylinder with a hole in it so that it can be like a pencil case holder. Well, what you can do, it's actually very, very simple. So what you can do, you can also say, select this part, double click it with 2 fingers, create a sketch on that surface, and what you can actually do is go ahead, create a circle, and make another cylinder within that cylinder. So we can go ahead and make this 70, right? So there's a 10 millimeter gap between the two walls. Finish sketch, and using the same press pull feature, what we can do is we can say -50, or sorry, let's go -30, right? So this will actually create a hole within the cylinder so that it can be a case of some sort or whatever you want it to be. Now, there's 2 ways of actually creating this hole, which is actually very cool about Autodesk Fusion 360. One thing you can do is just say -30, in which you can say OK, and I'll produce down there. Second thing you can do is say press pull. Let's go back here. Press pull, and you can say extent to object. So what this allows you to do, it allows you to select an object to which you want to make the hole go. And you can say, oh, I want to select the base, right? And you can set an offset as -5. And there you have it. You have 5 millimeter gap between the base and the edge of your hole. You can say OK. And if we orbit back around here, you see that we have a cylinder that can be a case of some sort or whatever you want it to be. There's also some other pretty cool features. Also, you can make a shell through this way, which is kind of what we did here, but that's actually how you would make a shell without using the shell feature. Always good to know. Fillet is a pretty interesting feature. Not many people have heard of it actually, but simply where you select an edge, you can select a taper angle, and essentially what it allows you to do is round off the corners. So if you want to say 5 millimeters round off, it allows you to do that. So this can make your pencil case a little bit more stylish, right? You can also do this on the bottom, right? So if I want to say fillet on the bottom edge, I'm going to go here, say fillet, and I'll say 5 millimeters. And there we go. Look at that. Now we have a kind of fancy pencil case. It almost looks like a coffee mug of some sort. And essentially, those are the basics of how you use Autodesk Fusion 360. On your own time, come up with some cool designs. Maybe not a cylinder, maybe a square, whatever you want it to be, a cube. Try to see what you can come up with. Tag me on Puriphico with @Puriphico and #Puriphico, and I'll see what you come up with. I'll repost your designs if I like them, and also I'll put an update on my website with a new video, and I'll be launching 1 video every week. So stay tuned for the next tutorials where I'm going to get into more detail, and you're going to be following along with me to build an actually intricate object that you can 3D print by yourself. See you next time.